Hey, Pro Organizers, it's your podcast co-host, Melissa, and it is May. And May is the month that I started my business, so it's almost my business birthday. And I actually started my business on my actual birthday. So my Home by 11 organizing business and my own human self have the same birthday. And I have been thinking a lot lately as I have been in the middle of putting up all of the brand new content for our revamped Inspired Organizer course about what does it mean to be an organizing entrepreneur and what does it mean to have an organizing business and what makes you successful. And there is a conversation that Jen and I had about what it takes to be an entrepreneur. What is entrepreneurial spirit for an organizer? And what you will hear, I hope, will reassure you about what it takes, because I've said on many occasions, I never envisioned myself being an entrepreneur ever. And now I am happier than I have ever imagined being in a career. And that's why I spend all day, every day, making sure other women can get into this industry and be happy. And as I said last week on the podcast, my attention span has been very short lately, and so maybe yours is too. So the best part is this is a quick hit of a lot of really great inspiration for you. So I hope that you have an absolutely fabulous week, and I will be back next week with a full-length podcast for everybody. Have a good one.
What do you think is the entrepreneurial mindset that you need to do what we do? Sometimes I think people are intimidated by, I don't know how to be an entrepreneur because I don't know business, or I have been a social worker, or I've been a stay-at-home mom. So what do you think the keys are to be an entrepreneur as a professional organizer?
Well, I love that because I had like 15 answers come to me and then like one major
And then
answer.
they all like, okay.
So let me give the one major answer. You need to be the kind of person who Googles stuff, because absolutely nothing out there, whether it's organizing or any other business that you can run, is a complete mystery.
Yes.
Let's be honest. It is well documented. There is a reason why the University of YouTube is where people learn how to do stuff. I mean, there is no reason why, short of raising actual capital, that you would have to do for, let's say, I want to open a traditional like retail business.
Right.
There's known research, documentation, business plans. Everything out there is out there. Now, you're not going to get the best mentorship in this business for free, but like you can do research and come up with basic business plans for literally anything. Mm-hmm. If you were waiting on someone to bless you with the information, and I do mean literally like in a miraculous sort of, it came to me in a dream. It came to me. Yeah. That's not going to happen.
Right.
But if you feel inspired, take that inspiration to Google and then fill in the blanks of what you don't know. Now, when you're talking about an entrepreneurial mindset, there is something else that you said that rings true to me. And I say this not in a derogatory way towards you or me or any of our audience, but to put it in perspective, there's Elon Musk entrepreneurship. Like, I'm disrupting an entire industry.
Yes.
We're going to go to space.
I was going to say, we're going to space.
Right. We're going to make a new cryptocurrency. Mm-hmm. And then there's baby entrepreneurship, which is at the level that we are at.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that because our job is predominantly a female industry. I'm not saying it because of any other reason other than the fact of this is not that mind-blowing, world disruptive stuff.
No.
We're talking about forming an LLC, getting business insurance, picking a business name. Mm-hmm. I mean, when it comes down to the hard adulting things of entrepreneurship, professional organizing is just about as easy as it gets because you don't even have to be certified to do it. So
you don't have to be certified. You do not have to have a business space to operate in. You do not have to have inventory. You do not have to buy anything to start your business. You can start your business with $0.
Literally a game of confidence.
Yes.
And
which you cannot buy.
Obviously, you have to actually care about people. But if all of those things are given, which I've always assumed that on this podcast and in all other places that I've talked about this business, what we're talking about is the baby level of entrepreneurship. So let's not get it twisted. We're not talking about the stressful 100-hour startups organizing business. It's honestly one of the easiest things to start a business around as a service. So if you were somebody who's very passionate about graphic design, you could start a graphic design service business, a service that someone else cannot do for themselves or does not want to. So I think that a lot of maybe the intimidation and mystery around the business world is probably because you're comparing yourself to someone that is in an entirely different league, industry. You don't need to subscribe to some special podcast or read everything about Google's acquisitions to understand the business world. Like, you just need to be able to communicate with people about what you do. And I think too about the entrepreneurial mindset is, if you are serious about being profitable, that math is your friend.
Math is your friend. That's not scary.
Yeah. So, and that's a much bigger conversation, which this is why we have the business course of Inspired Organizer. But the business part of it is math and making some decisions. And most of those decisions are not irreversible either.
No.
So it's like making a decision about, okay, this is who I serve, my name that I'm going to go by, what I'm going to put on my business card. All of those things are upgradable and able to be a process and not a forever decision.
I tell
the
people
math. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I tell people sometimes, this is kind of an aside, but people put so much energy sometimes into like, oh my gosh, I have to find the perfect name. And I'm like, you are not building Coca-Cola.
Right.
You are not building AT&T. And by the way, those businesses sometimes change their names too. Like,
that's true.
You can use your name. You can just say, I'm Melissa's Personal Organizing. Boom, you're done.
Yeah,
like, you
that's
do
true.
not have, and none of your changes are irreversible, or just don't get married to it. But anyway.
No, and I understand why people feel married to it, because I think that on some level, when you have a business, it does feel like a part of you as a person. And you're like, I can't possibly put myself out there and represent myself unless it's the ultimate thing. And it's like, well, when do we ever present ourselves as the ultimate version of ourselves? Never.
I grew up with a name.
Even on your wedding day, you're like,
I was gonna
10
say,
years later, you look back and you're like, well, that was interesting.
What I was going to say is, I grew up with a name that was my name for 27 years of my life. And then one day, in 1 hour, that name I rebranded to a name that was a lot less attractive than the one I started with. And I still took it.
Clue.
It's not an attractive name.
I want to touch back on the math thing, though.
Yes,
because
sorry, math is important.
The same concept of, there are people who want to have a hobby business, and there are people who want to replace a corporate career. Correct. I mean, there's a spectrum. The difference between all those things really does just come down to math. So if you are serious, coming back to Melissa's question, which is, what is the entrepreneurial mindset? What is the entrepreneurial mindset of someone who is serious about the profit, is embracing the math rather than running away from it? Like, oh, I don't want to look at that. And I'm not saying you have to do all of your own accounting. I'm just saying that you do have to make sure that your pricing makes you actually profitable, and that you treat marketing as an actual serious business activity, and not just something that you're like, oh, I did that a little bit when I first started, and now I'm just waiting to be blessed with clients. The way that I see it is, you make a schedule for yourself for the week. If you don't have a session during one of your session blocks, then sweet, you get a marketing block.
You get to work.
Yeah, it's like marketing. So the goal would be, anytime I would not have a client, is that I'm doing my chosen marketing activities, and then I'm planting seeds for the future, and that's okay. I mean, that's what, and then when you have a full client list with a waiting list, then you're like, sweet, you've reached your entrepreneurial dreams for that moment, and in the future, they may change and evolve to where you want to have a bigger team or bigger clients. You can still change. Yes. I think that's the most important thing, is to be flexible, Google what you don't know, embrace the math, and realize, like, this is not the hardest thing in the world.
Yes. I want to touch on something you just said. So the other day, I did a hot seat. So sometimes we do coaching with people that are in our Inspired Organizer group when they're having a very specific problem that they need to have solved.
Yes.
So I did a hot seat with a woman in our group who, she was giving away too much in a consultation. So she would say, I only want to work with people for 5 hours, but she would leave a consultation and she'd be like, I told them I would come for just an hour, because that's what they wanted. So one of the things I talked to her about is, her mindset was, well, I didn't have a client that day, so I decided that doing an organizing client for 1 hour, at least I would still make some money, and I would have a client that day. And I said, okay, I just want to flip it around a little bit. What if you had spent 3 hours working on your website or working on a YouTube or like working on your business? So she felt like if she wasn't at a client, that wasn't work. And so setting aside those blocks of time to say, I am working, even if I'm sitting at my kitchen counter with my laptop.
Right.
Because that
It
3
has to
hours
count.
you spend, that 3 hours that you spend working on your website or working on marketing or reaching out for networking and for referrals will end up giving you business that might be worth $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 versus the $100 that she made going to that client for an hour.
Yeah. Right. I totally agree with that.
But I think for us, part of the entrepreneurial mindset has to be also flexibility, adaptability, and creativity.
Okay. Tell me more about creativity.
So creativity to me in our business, and I think sometimes people think they hear the word creativity and they think, well, I don't want to paint a picture and I'm not a graphic designer.
Right.
And that's not what I mean. Creativity to me in our job means I can think differently about a client's job, or they might hire me to organize their pantry, but then I see that, hey, does your toy room also, is that frustrating to you? Is there something I could do to help you in your toy room? Or it is thinking differently about how can I go find clients or how can I go market myself? It's about being creative about solving problems, whether they're for your own business or for your client.
I agree.
And I wouldn't consider myself a creative person from an artistic standpoint or anything, but I do like to think that I'm creative about what are 4 different ways we can solve that problem. So if a client says to me, we were talking about how we organize our own personal closets and we do things very differently. But if I went into a client and I said, there's only one way to organize a closet and this is how we're going to do it. And if you don't like to organize your closet this way, then you're never going to be organized. I have to be creative when I go to every single client to know, okay, the way I organize my closet doesn't work for her. The way Jen organizes her closet doesn't work for this client. This third idea that I have doesn't work for my client. What's the 4th and 5th and 6th idea I can give them so they go, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's creativity to me.
Yes. That, like, the questions that you ask and like the sort of the exploration of their thinking, that is really the crux of what coaching actually is it's not telling people what to do, is helping them discover, oh, this is my personal blueprint for how I want to succeed at this particular thing. And now that's true if I'm coaching you in business or you're coaching a client on closet organizing or any of those other things. Is it's not actually about knowing all the answers in advance. And I think that's a big thing that holds up a lot of organizers is, oh, I'm not ready because I don't know all the answers in advance. It's like, no, the people in your area that are not being served by you right now are waiting for you to feel ready. Because all you need to do is help them see their stuff. You do not need to have your own house perfectly organized from top to bottom, X, Y, and Z, all the other things we've ever said that you don't need. They need you to be there and show up and listen to them and help them see solutions to their problems that they cannot see.
I'm telling you, one of the most glorious things that happens to you in an organizing career is when you go into a client's house and they'll be like, I cannot solve this problem. I can't do it. And you look at it and in your head you go, it can't possibly be this simple.
That's true.
And you give them the simplest suggestion you could ever think of. Like, hey, the clothes that are on the floor, what if we just hung those up instead of putting them on the floor? And they will be like, you are a genius.
Yes.
I have been told I was a genius so many times that you would think that I was an actual genius, which I am not.
Yeah.
Like, you can give a client the simplest solution that is right in front of them, but they cannot see it. They are blocked from seeing it.
That's true. That's true.
And you don't even have to be that gifted to be able to come up with those solutions to have a client think you're the best person that they have ever hired in their entire life.
I can vouch for that in my own experience. I'm like, I'm not even that great at this, but I'm really happy that they love me that much and need me forever.
Right. So you seeing their space and being an impartial third party is the most valuable thing you can bring and having a few things in the back of your head to be creative, to think about solutions. You do not have to be experienced or gifted or...
You don't have to have the Container Store memorized.
No, you do not. No, you
You'll
do not.
have time to figure that out in between sessions.
Yep. The other valuable thing you can do is sometimes say, I don't know. I'm going to have to research that. Or you know what? I need to think about that a little bit. Or I'm going to have to Google solutions for a 3-inch wide drawer.
Or I'll say my brain just sort of needs to process and sleep on it, because I can totally, like sometimes when you have literally like a space sort of puzzle problem solving and one thing leads to another, I'm like, I'm going to come up with something. And I really do. I know that I will, but it's not going to be on the spot. And I don't set the expectation that I know everything on the spot, because that's insane for anybody. So don't hold yourself to that standard.
Your clients are not looking for you to be that genius with an SKU level of like, they don't need you to come in and be like, the Container Store has a 3-ring drawer and it's in the aisle 17 and it is $12.99.
And I happen to bring it with me in my car.
And it's in my car. Right. No, they're not looking for you to do that.
So with that being said,
yes,
if it's just a game of confidence and it's using a skill that you know you already have and that you're passionate about it, the more that you use it and flex it, the more confident that you will be. And it is going to, like, your success is going to start to build on itself. And I truly believe that the thing that you do get blessed with out of nowhere in a dream or while you're taking a shower is ideas and ways for you to continue meeting new people and asking for help or asking for referrals. Like things that you do feel comfortable with will start to occur to you along the way where you're like, oh, I can do this because I did this other thing. If that makes sense. Like you start to build that confidence by just doing, which is unfortunately an answer that sometimes we don't always like. I mean, I don't always like that answer in all areas of my life either. You just have to start with the cards that you have been dealt and then see what happens, go from there, right? Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening. And if you want to spend another hour with me, I would love to spend it with you. If you go to PORoadmap.com, you can get our free workshop, The Pro Organizer's Profit Plan. I would love to see you there. Have a great week.